right, so as Victoria said, I'm Leilani Jordan, and I am excited to share my culminating project, which involves supporting a food security assessment and prioritization project in Maple Ridge, BC. So Maple Ridge is located in the Fraser Valley and is the traditional territory of the Katzie and Kwantlen First Nation peoples. And as a fourth generation white settler to Turtle Island, I would like to express my honest gratitude to live on this land held in stewardship by Indigenous peoples for generations. So since my project focused on food security, I'd also like to share that one of the traditional and staple food sources for the peoples of this region was known as wapato, an aquatic plant that produces a starchy potato-like tuber. Wapato grew well along local riverbanks before European settlers altered these wetland areas through agriculture and urban development, destroying the local habitat. I often shared this during community presentations in the hope that participants would then reflect on the impact of colonialism on Indigenous food systems and critically examine how we could eliminate these inequities. But as an overview of the project, it started in September of 2020 and was funded by a poverty reduction grant. So it started with an environmental scan of the food system to create an asset inventory and a community profile. And then community engagement with various networks of organizations and the general public started in February and will continue on through the summer. So this data will be used to create a gap analysis. And then in August, a community-led process to prioritize actions is meant to result in a number of recommendations to be shared with the city. So my role in this project was to create a background report on food security in Maple Ridge and create an engagement strategy proposal for the project. So I used an evidence-informed approach, applying best practice evidence and community expertise. So pre-appraised data with a regional focus was used for the background report. So this included a number of provincial and local reports and surveys. And then for the engagement strategy, I relied on experiential knowledge and literature sources recommended by my supervisors and other teams engaged in similar work in the region, as well as some sources from PHSP 552 on topics like public participation, dialogue, and engagement. So I'd hope to share some highlights from these two products that I produced for my practicum. In the background report, I described food security as a social determinant of health and explained the health impacts and links to poverty. And I also clarified the differences between household food security, which is most commonly defined as having economic access to adequate, safe, nutritious food, and then community food security, which takes a broader view of the entire food system and considers factors related to sustainability and self-reliance. An in-depth community profile also described the ways in which food insecurity may be inequitably experienced by certain populations in Maple Ridge. So for example, we know that the primary predictor of household food insecurity is low income, but other factors such as identifying as Indigenous, renting your home, or living in a household headed by a single female are also associated with food insecurity. So in the profile, I also compared these statistics to regional or provincial data. The background report also summarized food system assets along a continuum. So short-term relief programs are those that address the immediate hunger needs of people, such as food banks and meal programs. And this part of the inventory had mostly been completed when I started with the project. Then capacity building strategies improve the food system by addressing individual food skills, food system resilience, and other strategies that foster awareness and empowerment to address food insecurity issues. So I was able to contribute here by finding programs related to ecosystem restoration, as well as census of agriculture data to contribute to an inventory of farming activity. And then finally, system redesign approaches include policies to reduce poverty, improve the availability of healthy food, improve local agriculture, and build collective action and advocacy efforts. So I was able to contribute to this aspect as well by finding our municipal policies and committees that support local agriculture, as well as various provincial education and healthcare policies. So then the second part of my project involved creating the engagement strategy proposal. So the engagement strategy was based on a number of principles, including taking an asset-based approach, including perspectives of people with lived experience of poverty and food insecurity, engaging local leaders to co-create processes, use of multiple engagement approaches to diversify reach within the community, ensuring transparency in the project, and providing the public with evidence-based information to guide decision-making. So in developing the engagement strategy, I considered, hold on. Okay, people need to not phone me when I'm doing this. I considered activities along the spectrum of participation. So as you move from left to right along the continuum, from activities that seek to inform to those that empower community, each gives greater power, control, and responsibility to the community, but also requires greater investment of time, resources, and community interest to complete. So it was decided that the engagement strategy would involve all levels of engagement depending on the project stage. So what I created was a sort of menu of engagement activities for my supervisors to select from, each including a rationale, objective, implementation plan, resource budget, and evaluation. So I'd like to just give you a snapshot of the 9 proposed activities. So first, I suggested a marketing plan to increase awareness of the project, promote public participation, create a recognizable image, and improve credibility. So this included things like crafting consistent language to describe the project, creating a project elevator pitch, and developing a branded image for all event marketing materials. And then I also suggested using social media and traditional media platforms to promote the project and its engagement events. So next, I designed and hosted 2 network engagement events. The first was called Gather Around the Table and invited 22 key stakeholders to a Zoom collaboration. So these were community leaders representing various sectors from healthcare, education, business, charitable food, agriculture, and others. And the purpose was to raise awareness of the issue, the project, and our community assets, and to start building a network of organizations interested in collaborating on food security issues in the community. And then the second network event piggybacked on the regular monthly meeting of our community network, which is an 80-member network of government, nonprofits, business, and community members who meet every month to collaborate on community issues. So again, we had over 20 participants. They were introduced to the project, and then we collaborated on how best to reach out to target populations for the focus groups and surveys. So next, I proposed a community food asset mapping activity through creation of a publicly accessible collaborative Google map, which could be jump-started by the team with a number of layers representing categories of food system assets like grocery stores, fast food restaurants, farm stands, etc. So this activity was intended to engage the public to think about local food security assets, contribute to the food asset inventory, and start to build an asset map that could be further developed for community and service provider use. And then a public survey was proposed to collect data on a number of food security indicators. Due to resource limitations, we suggested aiming for a convenience sample using free survey software from Fraser Health, collecting quantitative data only, and seeking external support for data analysis. And then to enhance participation, it was decided the survey should be designed to be completed in about 10 to 15 minutes, available online and on paper, should incorporate feedback from the network consultations in order to reduce barriers to access, and should be piloted before implementation. And I also created a list of sample survey questions, which I adapted from various other sources. Next, I proposed the team conduct a minimum of 3 90-minute Zoom-based focus groups with 8 to 12 participants each, marketed as kitchen table talks, to gather qualitative data and enhance engagement with people with lived experience. So at least one focus group was meant to include service providers from nonprofits, health and social service agencies, and charitable food providers. And then the other focus groups could recruit participants with lived experience of food insecurity through community organizations using screening questions such as, have you ever found it difficult to access the food you needed for yourself or your family? And then an event marketed as a kernel for your wisdom or a market bucks for your thoughts was designed for delivery at the local farmers market, inviting the public to share their vision for food system improvement through a publicly accessible whiteboard. And then the event would either offer market shoppers a scoop of kettle corn or $3 in market bucks in exchange for their contribution to this shared whiteboard, guided by a question such as, what's your recipe for food security in Maple Ridge? And then a Photovoice event was also proposed as another participatory method to engage communities to share their experiences using images in order to reach populations that might not be engaged by traditional methods, and also recognized as a way to promote self-empowerment through participation. So due to resource restrictions, it was proposed as more of a Photovoice light version, where the public would be invited to submit a photo to the Facebook page with a short caption in response to a number of guiding questions, such as what aspects of your everyday life affect what you eat and how much you have to eat. And then finally, An advisory panel consultation was designed to prioritize recommended actions. So this event was based on a process outlined by Eat Right Foundation, which has a validated tool for allocation of scarce resources. So I suggested convening a panel of 5 to 15 stakeholders representing various aspects of the local food system over 2 2-hour Zoom sessions. And the event would follow 4 basic steps, including identifying unmet needs, suggesting solutions, scoring solutions by cost, benefit, and confidence, and then prioritizing solutions by ranking them through consensus. So the results of this would be presented in the final report to the city in the form of recommendations. So that's a really high level summary of my project. I hope you found it interesting. I want to express my immense gratitude to my wonderful supervisors, Brenna Aliff and Kim Dumore, and of course, Victoria, for supporting me on my learning journey.